everyone, Midits here. In the last video from the series, I discussed the first 6 seasons of Power Rangers that encapsulate the Zordon era of the franchise. Today, I'll be talking about and ranking the 4 seasons of the Post-Zordon era, that being Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, and Wild Force. I hope you all enjoy this video, and let's get straight into this. This is my personal favorite era of Power Rangers, and you can tell that because of my last place spot, that being Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. Because, despite it being my least favorite season of this era, I still find it to be a solid season of Power Rangers. It has some highlights to it, and it is way better than the worst series of quite a few other eras. This show follows a team of Red Ranger Carter, Blue Ranger Chad, Green Ranger Joel, Yellow Ranger Kelsey, and Pink Ranger Dana, with the American original Titanium Ranger Ryan joining the team later on. This series is very unique as the Ranger team is part of the government organization called Lightspeed, which is defending the city of Mariner Bay from demons. There's not clever wordplay or anything, they're straight up demons. This show also does something which some later shows also begin doing, and that's not making the Rangers have a secret identity. I find it a nice addition since they don't have to tell the same plots over and over again about the Rangers having to make sure no one finds out the truth, and it makes perfect sense here since, once again, the Rangers are part of the government. This is a team I'd consider in the middle tier of Power Rangers teams. Chad and Kelsey don't get a ton to do in this show. Joel is a fun character who brings a ton of charisma to the team, and has a great relationship with the team's scientist, Miss Fairweather. I also like Dana and Ryan, but the best member here is easily Carter. This man is the textbook definition of a Power Rangers team leader. He's super devoted to being a ranger and helping people. Since he used to be a fireman, he has a great arc in an episode where he realizes that the man who saved him as a kid and inspired him to become a firefighter was none other than the team's mentor, Captain Mitchell. Carter just exudes cool whenever he appears in the show. I consider this show the weakest of the era because, while it's consistently good, it doesn't hit as many highs as the rest of these series do. It is undoubtedly cool that, like I said before, the Titanium Ranger did not appear in Super Sentai and was created specifically for Power Rangers, especially since his story ties Dana and her father, Captain Mitchell, to the main antagonist of the series. The series definitely took risks when it came to the ideas for a Power Ranger series, and while it did a great job with its premise, we're going to be seeing some series here that do it even better. Now let's get on to the final series of the Post-Zordon era, Power Rangers Wild Force. This team first starts with a team of 5 Rangers with Cole the Red Ranger, Taylor the Yellow Ranger, Max the Blue Ranger, Danny the Black Ranger, and Alyssa the White Ranger. Eventually, a 6th member is added to the team with Merrick the Lunar Wolf Ranger. This is a good team. While I wouldn't consider these Rangers as up there as some of the greatest Rangers of all time, there are no Rangers here that I would consider super weak writing-wise, unlike some other series. One thing I find very weird is how at the beginning of the show, it's very clear that Taylor is the leader of the team, but when Cole joins, he immediately becomes the leader because he's the Red Ranger, despite the fact that in Power Rangers Time Force, the series right before this, the Pink Ranger is very clearly the leader of the team. I guess they want to focus more on Cole because he has a more unique story compared to most of the team, as his life and his family are connected to the main villains, but it's still an odd choice. These Rangers hold their base of operations in a sky island called Animarium, where the ancient Princess Shayla acts as a mentor to the Rangers. The Rangers fight these beings called Orgs with their leader Master Org. While the show doesn't compare to the next 2 series when it comes to quality, it still has some spectacular moments. It is incredibly difficult to mess up a Power Rangers crossover, and this in no way is foreshadowing something in the very far future. The crossover with Time Force is incredible. I love seeing the Time Force cast again, but the true crossover event here is Forever Red. One grandiose crossover episode featuring every single Red Ranger. Except for Rocky, they didn't know what to do with him. This is still an absolutely tremendous crossover, that easily being one of the best in the entire franchise. They even bring back Bulk and Skull for a scene. One final thing I want to highlight is the finale, the end of the Power Rangers. Power Rangers was for the 2nd time about to be cancelled, and at this point, it's just a fun little tradition. Now, while this isn't some great conclusive end to the Power Rangers series, it works as an incredible ending to Wild Force, and perfectly captures the themes of the whole show. In the prior episode, the Rangers believe that they have finally defeated Master Org, so that means their time as Rangers has come to an end. But it's revealed that Master Org is alive and more powerful than ever before. The Rangers give everything they've got to try and beat him, but it's no use, and the Rangers lose their powers. Despite losing the powers, the Rangers go to help people before returning to face Master Org. The Rangers then declare in a really cool scene that even if they've lost their Zords and their powers, they are still the Guardians of the Earth, and they will fight evil to the very end. But it seems that right when the battle is about to end, all the wild Zords return and the Rangers regain their powers so that they can defeat Master Org. After this, the Rangers celebrate their victory and disband the team so they can go out and live their lives. If the show ended here, it would have been a satisfactory conclusion, but the world is a better place with us getting the later eras. After Power Rangers in Space, it was exceedingly clear that the show was not going to get cancelled. So of course, ideas were made for the next season of Power Rangers and how it would continue the legacy of the shows while still respecting the ending that In Space delivered. And that is how we got Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Despite not being part of the Zordon era, it still sort of feels like a continuation of In Space. This series followed the team of Red Ranger Leo, Blue Ranger Kai, Green Ranger Damon, Yellow Ranger Maya, and Pink Ranger Kendrix. Later on, the anti-hero called the Magna Defender appears. He joins the team temporarily as a proper hero when Mike is given the powers. Lastly, Kendrix is later on replaced by someone special from the past. This series follows the Ranger team on the giant space colony Terra Venture, which has left the planet Earth in search for a new world for humanity to inhabit. During a training mission, the soon-to-be Rangers accidentally enter a portal that leads them to a planet called Miranoi. The four members of Terra Venture and Maya from Miranoi are attacked by the main villains of the series and end up pulling these swords called Quasar Sabers from a giant stone they were attached to, making them the new Power Rangers. But during this fight, one of the villains named Furio creates a giant chasm that Mike falls into. In seemingly his final moments, he gives the Quasar Saber to his younger brother Leo. The Rangers that return to Terra Venture having to continually face off against Scorpius and Shakina's army throughout the show. This is another consistently solid team, although some members do get more time to shine in comparison to others. It's super interesting of an idea to have Leo be super doubtful of his own abilities, because every season prior made the point that the members chosen to be Rangers were chosen perfectly for the job. But Leo wasn't meant to be the Red Ranger, Mike was. So these thoughts are something Leo has to overcome during the show. Like I said before, this does sort of feel like a continuation of In Space. The Astro Megaship and Alpha 6 return this series, Bulk and Professor Phenomenus return, but they don't really have that many appearances, and also Skull is written out during the first episode due to the actor no longer being available at that time. Also, while this isn't the first crossover to feature two full Ranger teams, this crossover definitely set the standard for future ones. The crossover feels like a proper continuation of In Space's story with the return of the Psycho Rangers. But it's also a very important story in Lost Galaxy, as Kendrix sacrifices herself to save everyone. The reason this happened was because the actress playing her was dealing with a serious illness, and she had to leave the show to get treatment for it. And in one of the few genuinely really good things the showrunners did, they decided to keep her in the opening credits so that she would continue being paid as a main actor in the show. Luckily, she did eventually recover, and I'll be mentioning her character again later. Now, without a Pink Ranger, the team was incomplete, so the writers came up with an absolutely genius idea, and that was to bring back Carone, or you may remember her as Instromina, from In Space, back as the new Pink Ranger. It feels like a perfect conclusion to her arc from the season prior, with her finally getting to be a Ranger just like her brother, and firmly joining the side of good. It's also once again another tie to In Space that shows how connected these two series are. I've gotten pretty far ahead, so let's head back to talk about the Magna Defender. He is a warrior who fought Scorpius a long time ago and lost his son to him. He's an anti-hero wanting to get revenge on Scorpius, no matter what it costs him or other people. Multiple times he's shown to start struggling with his revenge, as it turns out that he was trapped a long time ago in the same pit Mike fell into at the start of the show. So he possessed Mike and was able to escape from the pit. So Mike has sort of been acting as Magna Defender's good side in his mind, trying to stop him from hurting people in his quest to defeat Scorpius. During one attempt to stop Scorpius, which includes destroying Terra Venture, Mike and the memories of his own son causes the Magna Defender to step back from his hate and turn to selflessness, sacrificing himself to save the colony. This leads to Mike being freed and later temporarily joining the team with the Magna Defender's powers. The best thing about each series from this era, and something that continues into the rest of the franchise, is how there are multiple story arcs going throughout the show. In the earlier seasons, you go from one storyline and move on to the next, with maybe a crumb of something bigger going on, but here you'll have one storyline, while multiple other ones are slowly building up in the background. That's a very basic thing, but it's done very well here. But one single episode that's absolutely fantastic is the rescue mission. This episode is super unique compared to the rest of the show, as it's a Power Rangers version of Alien, where none of the regular villains appear, and no Super Sentai footage is used in the episode. It does a really great job at giving a creepy, intense feel, as a member of Terra Venture's crew don't even know what threat they're facing. And it's easily one of the best parts of the whole season. It feels important to go into detail on one of the show's main villains, Trakina. The best way I feel to describe her is Astronema if she was too far gone. She's Scorpius' daughter, and while not really treated as a major threat at first, she gets training that allows her to become more dangerous. especially when Scorpius dies at the Rangers' hands. In fact, the Psycho Rangers are only brought back because of Trakina. Near the end, Trakina and another main villain named Deviant fuse together, with Trakina being the dominant personality. This causes her to become even more powerful and unhinged, and she goes for a full attack on Terra Venture. In the end, she is destroyed by Leo, with the Rangers being victorious. Since we've reached this point, let's talk about the ending. Terra Venture is starting to run out of fuel, but a planet suitable for humans is finally found nearby. Before they're able to reach the planet, everything which I just mentioned occurs, and the colonists who evacuated on shuttles arrive on a new planet. But the Rangers soon realize that they aren't on a new planet, but they are on Miranoi. With their work being done, the Rangers return the Quasar Savers, which undoes the damage done to the planet at the start of the show. Not only that, but the power of the Quasar Savers being returned somehow brings Kendrix back from the dead. Of course, you can complain about how there isn't a reason given to how this revived her, but if you know the background on why she left the show, it is a really sweet ending. With Lost Galaxy, it was clear that In Space was not a fluke, and this show was fully prepared to enter the 21st century. This is easily, in my opinion, an S tier season of Power Rangers. That not only speaks to how spectacular the show is, but also says even more about the next show. Power Rangers has an odd relationship when it comes to adapting its original show, Super Sentai. And by that, I mean it almost never adapts the original show's concept in the slightest. Gingaman is a nature-themed series, while Lost Galaxy is set in space. But with Power Rangers Time Force, something was clearly different. This show has the classic Ranger formula of first following 5 Rangers, with Red Ranger Wesley, Pink Ranger Jen, Blue Ranger Lucas, Yellow Ranger Katie, and Green Ranger Trip, with the Quantum Ranger Eric later on joining the team. The show starts in the year 3000 when the criminal Rancic escapes from prison and kills the Red Ranger Alex. In his final moments, Alex tells the rest of the police crew to catch Rancic, who's now traveling back in time to the year 2001. He also gives them morphers, which should make them Power Rangers. The problem is, though, to activate the powers, they need Alex's DNA. That's where Wes comes in. He's the ancestor of Alex, so his DNA can access the Ranger powers. This means that Wes and the others from 3000 are now the Power Rangers. There's a fascinating dynamic in the team by having Wes be such an outsider compared to everyone else. Despite his dad being rich and wanting Wes to inherit his business, Wes constantly avoided proper discipline. So Wes is clearly not the leader of the team in this season, and that title definitely belongs to the Pink Ranger Jen. She is way more serious, as she was engaged to Alex before he was killed, so stopping Rancic was even more personal to her. Sadly, Katie and Lucas don't have a ton of moments that really show off their character, which is an issue quite a few series have when certain other members of the team are super important. Trip is an alien, so there are a bit more scenes that are special regarding him, and that brings me to something that makes this show very different. The antagonists are all criminals, so instead of just murdering them, the Rangers actually contain everyone they find and send them back to 3000 to serve their sentence. It provides such a distinctive view to the villains in a Power Ranger series, especially when Eric is introduced. Eric is from present day 2001 and is part of a team called the Silver Guardians that protects the city of Silver Hills. Eric attended the same school as Wes, and when he discovers Wes is a ranger, he then finds the Quantum Ranger powers that the Time Force team had been looking for. While Eric does butt heads with the Rangers quite a few times, especially when it comes to dealing with mutants, he eventually is seen as part of Time Force. While I myself have not seen Time Ranger, I've often heard about how much more the show adapts it compared to any other Ranger shows with its source material. In fact, you can watch videos on YouTube that compare moments from Time Ranger to Time Force, and Time Force recreates the scenes very precisely. And I'm not just talking about reusing the Sentai footage. They're shooting American footage clearly based on the original show. And I just gotta say, this one is such a consistently great watch from beginning to end. One thing not adapted from the original is the villains, as Rancic does not appear in Time Ranger. The show tells a rather serious story about how Rancic had a deformed face after a chemical accident and was shunned from society, leading him to become the leader of a criminal empire. He has a daughter who he very clearly cares for, as at the end of the show, he immediately stops fighting when he realizes that he injured her. His daughter Nadira, who starts changing her perspective when she actually gets to know humanity, helps Rancic calm down and loosen his hatred of mankind. Rancic then turns himself in, realizing the way that he lashed out his whole life was wrong. It's a super compelling villain arc, especially since it's with the main big bad. Astronema, while a major villain, still wasn't the main villain, as that was Dark Spectre, while Time Force shows that anyone, even the people who've done the most harm, are capable of change. Throughout the show, you see moments of Jen and Wes clearly liking each other. It's built up very gradually during the show, and they finally confess their love to each other at the end of the show when the future Rangers have to return to their time. Wes then joins the Silver Guardians, with Eric as his right-hand man. This is quintessential Power Rangers. If you want to show someone what makes the show so great, this is definitely one of the seasons you have to show them. I didn't even really scratch the surface of all the great stuff that is in this series, and you're doing a disservice to yourself if you don't go and check it out. This is such a consistently great era for Power Rangers. There's not a single miss of a series here, and while that can be attributed to this era being so short, you also have to give credit to the amount of effort put into the writing during this time. In Space was so incredibly important for the Power Rangers franchise, and I am so glad that its influence is still felt in these shows writing-wise. In a future video, we'll be seeing if Disney can keep that thunder going strong, and if lightning can be caught in a bottle a third time. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. That's going to be for now, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.